Okay, high performance add-ons. Unions, guilds, could be any organization. So effectively, as you're adding more services and you're going with the hard asset new generation, which is obviously enhancing the capabilities of members because they're going to be acquiring equity in the assets that are being built, as well as in some cases they can opt in for some of the work, which means they can make basically union pay or better doing some of the labor. For instance, building their own 2-bedroom home, there can be outbuildings, etc. So as all this solidity begins to help expand the capabilities and upgrade the assets of any member, let's call it a minimum statistical average of $90,000 in assets acquired per year per building project. That's assuming one project per year. This does not include labor for getting paid if you do part of the pulls on the works, on the jobs. So effectively, what we have is, after these start going in motion, we have overdrive aspects. The overdrive aspects mean that additional types of businesses could be created by members. Some organizations have already done this. They've created additional types of businesses that bring an income in for the organization. Now, this can also be in the form of stock, so to speak, of residuals, where members get part of the profits, so to speak. Now, as this continues as a process to become more and more elaborate, there are different aspects that can also be addressed. Adding more businesses and more options. Now, there's also, as this keeps going, these new businesses and options can be things like AI, a guild, a union's AI, or they buy in and partner with a collective of multiple organizations that are building their own AI structured system. And the AI can provide an array of services. Anything from assistive smart contract building to deal with creating extra businesses to giving extreme financial advice. This would be something that would be an open shared item amongst members. So we're talking about independent parties could be contracted to develop something that's turned into an AI capability, yet every member basically gets to benefit from it. This is to say, another comparison would be like you buy a course to go to college. You buy a course in college to get a certificate and being able to do a certain capability. But what you do is you contract to say, we want the person to make the videos and the material permanently. So we're hiring you not just to be a teacher. We're working a little different deal where we want to be able to permanently have this material, whatever that contract, however that turns out. But it's also as a wide-scale collective. So in different ways, you can actually literally hire teachers to do certain teaching feature capabilities. And this can be mixed. When you get to people with high degrees, they can not only be teaching, but they also might be, for instance, in computers, helping to develop high-end computer functionality with the AI system. So collectively, the members are becoming more and more powerful by virtue of building this massive archive of AI capabilities. So this is something laying out an understanding of how building more and more assets, because there's an asset translation in building archives. You need physical locations. So this can also lead to combined other items where parties are saying, I want to do a vacation property, or I would like to get into a mini vacation property. There can be various proposals where the financing for the generation of the new hard assets, which is a solid bring, so to speak, basically have the organization co-signing or doing the loan development. You know, some unions have credit unions, so that's a bank basically, which means the bank's going to get money from the Fed. So instead of loaning the money like a bank would to people to build a home, and the credit union makes or the bank makes that percentage plus the generation fee, the loan fee. With the new blockchain techniques, we're eliminating 70% of the labor, even sometimes more, 90% of the labor, and it becomes virtually almost an automatic function. So this means that a loan generation fee on a $750,000 home can be $40,000 to $65,000. Well, basically, aside from the point that people would have issues that maybe that's gouging, the newfound operational techniques of doing this, converting much of the aspects into blockchain and basically a form of automated programming and AI interfacing, dramatically reduce this. So we're talking about taking loan development cost, which a bank normally would have charged $40,000 to $65,000 per $750,000, and all of a sudden reducing it to $3,500 or less. So this is a dramatic difference in the way the loan structure plays all the way out. So there's also the loan fee with normal banking, which means they might be loaning people, depending on your credit rating, you might be getting a 4% loan, very few, maybe a 3% loan. Most people are going to get a 4 to 6% loan. And some people are considered high risk, and they're going to be in a 10% loan. Well, there's a lot of options. I'm going to explain the other options about people that are in the high risk zone, because it's a low risk partnership if you consider a partnership agreement. We'll talk about those later. So effectively, by doing the credit union, you're getting the money wholesale. The credit union's getting the money from the Fed, just like the bank wholesale, at say 1%, round number, which means that it can hand out loans based upon the electronic upgrade very cheaply. So it can do loans at 2.5% and be making a profit at that. Be making quite a profit, actually, over the course of 30 years. So now we're dramatically reducing the cost for the loan and the development. So overall, because you don't have to spend as much labor on loan development, because it's becoming more of a automatic features. So in so doing this, as a credit union, you're basically not just co-signing, you're also going to perform a performance bond guarantee, or that can be subbed out. There's ways to do that where you can sub it out. However, if you have a large enough collective, it's a for-profit business to do completion loaned insurance contracts. So you want to basically, if you're large enough, you want to keep that in-house, because then you can lower the overall cost both ways. You can split the difference on that factor. So all of a sudden, it's not necessarily going to make that much money per se in the long run. What it's doing is you're guaranteeing that all your projects are going to come through. And this is important because this gives an overall greater success rate to the projects, and that means to the guild's businesses, the members, so forth, etc. So into this, as these items develop and become more and more proven, then extensionalism can happen more and more. So I want to say, first of all, I'm an outside the box person. I'm inside outside. So there's no limits. There's no limits to what can happen here. So now you're talking about how do we deal with overdrive features? Overdrive means that we're going to bring in extra stuff because we've already got this great solidity engineered into the aspects of this item. Okay, continuing, I'm just going to roll it and tell you I'm doing this. It gets reworked. The material all gets reworked, but I'm putting out the material as is. I'm currently working with monitoring 3 phones that I have to keep checking the messages and seeing what's going on coming in as people are going to text on this stuff. So I've got things are getting more hectic. There's a lot of things I have to deal with, a lot of distractions, a lot of other different styles of messages and whatnot. So, but I'm doing this on the fly, but not. But all this stuff gets reworked. I rework it all the way through AI. And some of this I've effectively already done, but I can't get to finding the exact material in question. But I wanted to do an item dealing with extensionalism, where you go to overdrive extensionalisms. Okay, with overdrive extensionalism, basically you're going to start looking at different aspects where if you're an organization and you have membership and you have a membership cost, union, guild, whatever, you can think about saying at one point in time, do we build yet again another type of side business that we're basically bankrolling that's going to make a profit, that in fact we want to do something with this profit. Obviously some people like keeping the profit, that makes sense, but then you could say, how about where we also can consider the original organizational understanding, where we say we're going to develop this type of business, another business that yields, makes a profit, so to speak. And what we're going to do with the profits are we're going to lower our dues. And there's different ways that you can integrate this in. This can be saying that we have vested members that have been, around longer. And so we could reduce renewal fees based upon the organization brings a new solidness and set a series of capabilities to make this new extra extension overdrive business that is able to have us change our features. Now here's the way you can go with changing features, because you can add more and more and more of these features as you go. I've already talked about buying into AI, building AI, partnering with AI. Partnering with AI is probably the best, where you have multiple organizations partner, because different people have different things that they want to put a few nickels and dimes into the pot to develop and buy permanently. So you can add all kinds of educational, all kinds of assistive features that are just mind-boggling to your organization. And this works good for unions. This works good, really, really good for guilds. When you have guilds, can end up having a lot of material, especially if you're an artist guild, acting guild. There's a lot of different features that you can end up making. And part of these, it can end up being legal, contract, exploration, evaluations, and new styles of modeling for benefiting your individual members, which is part of what I'm bringing to the table here, is saying, yeah, we're going to add these other features in these different proposals so that we can make each individual member solid by adding a statistical average $90,000 in asset acquisition. Plus, you can take part of the labor for some of the stuff. Now, this works really good if you're a starving writer and you don't get full-time work, or you're some kind of actor in whatever the productions are, so that you can use and schedule your time at the most optimum levels. By the way, this also works for teachers, because teachers have a seasonal offness in many places. They have 3 months they don't have anything to do. So there's ways where this also works on the construction thing. Now, there's more ways to overdrive that and make it more appealing. There's different people who are in different style of income. In other words, very successful members where 90 grand is almost meaningless to them, and when they do a real estate project, they're going to be spending 3 million, maybe 7 million. So, keeping this in mind, that some people are going to scale out different on different areas this way. But the idea is to make a new minimum standard wealth level, overall combined wealth level between either cash income or asset acquisition. So this is very important. And with the loan creativity, the loans can be controlled. You can decide to do 30-year loans, even 40-year loans. And do the loans where they're graduated payment, even graduated to balloon. So these are important aspects when you consider that reducing the monthly income for some of your members is a bonus, because it strengthens your membership. It really does. It strengthens your membership. It reduces the stress on the individual member financially. It's very important to come up with different ways to reinforce and do things for your members. So this and of course this all translates out into greater strength overall. So aside from a lot of these other different facets and putting this in, you get to the point where you're at extensionalism and then overdrive. So you can do overdrive and say, okay, if we're going to do an overdrive technique, that means that we're going to start looking at new ways to doing things. We're solid, we're strong. Now let's do a collective new business creation that has some kind of a cash intake, where what we're going to do is, instead of just putting the profits into the business and into ourselves, or into our pockets, we're going to say, let's use this to cover part of membership costs. Can we reduce membership cost 50%? Can we sit down and say, do we give credit as to the early members who vested, who fought, who walked in the sun, whatever, just give them a little extra consideration because they put into the pot longer. So that Johnny-come-lately is just coming into it. Understand that there's a consideration of some dues here. There's some respect that's a lot that needs to be considered here. So however this comes out in these decisions and ideas, however this mix of ideas ends up coming out, it'll settle down and you can actually reduce membership cost. So in continuing with the overdrive, each time you do this, there's yet again another option, especially when we get to the hard asset based stuff, because you're talking about real solidity, real hard assets. So I mentioned in some of my other material the second home, the vacation home, the third home aspect, which is also a positive thing. This keeps things going for members. And again, because you're basically also a credit union, which means you're a bank, and because of all the new AI nuances, dramatic reduction in what's needed. You don't need a fancy location for the bank, or the credit union. You don't need fancy furniture. You're going to be using computers, and everything's going to be done more and more automatically with blockchain and stuff like this. So 70% of what was labor becomes a button, a series of buttons, automatic AI features. So we just have to embrace it and accept this. So in so doing this means that we have a better profit capability. We have a more flexible interest rate workage and back tow and all these neat things about insurance and project guarantees. So if we're affording and saying that, yes, ideally we want members to end up doing at least 3 construction projects. This is a hard asset acquisition. This works very well for the members. If you averaged basically acquiring $90,000 in assets on each of the 3, that kind of helps you out in life a bit. That does. And it's going to be more. It depends on the project. So when you have combined projects, which I've mentioned before, like someone says, let's do a series of cabins, a little resort. It'd be nice to do something on the lake. You can do different style of projects that can be part of the organization, yet they have an understanding. In other words, you have certain vested members that clearly are in a different pay scale, and they want to do a certain type of little mini resort, but it's very high dollar. So the reality is not all the members are going to be able to keep pace and join into that project pool. So we have to have respect and say, yeah, okay, we're going to, we'll still do this. We're still going to bankroll it. It's solid. Every project that is solid, that gains and shows success, makes the overall organization stronger, proven. You're gonna have different levels of proposals of different types of projects. Some people are going to say, yeah, we want to build a project that has a lot of $1.2 million structures on it, and these are really deluxe cabins in a really great location. But you're going to have other people who say, I might even be wealthy, but you know what? Can we do something smaller, a 300K or less cabin project? So anything is open on the table. You can do $50,000 cabins. You can do some of these more creative structures that are coming available for 10 to 30 grand, and work with those. Now you're not getting as much on the construction because you're buying pre-made stuff into this, but that doesn't mean that you're not adding other features that you're not going to do other building, because you're talking about garage, carports, stuff like that. I like both garage and carports. I like a little carport, and I like the garage aspect. I like to be able to lock stuff down. It just makes me feel better. Storms can come. I don't want my vehicle getting scratched. I would really like to keep it in a garage. That works better for me. So I'm sure a lot of people would feel the same way with things. So into these different projects, they're going to continue, and the overall strength of the organization and the combined organization contracts that can occur collectively make things bigger and bigger. So as you add on all these different features, I'm calling standardized features of the new extension. Then we have extensional. We'll call it regular extensional or new extensional, and then overdrive. The overdrive aspects can start adding in different ways. You can get very creative with this. In other words, you end up locking everybody into the 3 project deal, 3 hard asset deal. You got the archive going. It has lots of features, permanent ways of storing your information forever. Very good for legal aspects, so forth, etc. Lots of power there, lots and lots of power there that collectively will build and become absolutely enormous. So, and all kinds of different capabilities for investment advice and this and that. So collectively, those are all fantastically powerful because all the members can tap into the same type of information. So now we're thinking about how do we continue forward? Well, one of the things on overdrive that you can consider is some organizations feel like they're having a problem keeping their membership, or they want to add to their membership. So there's different ways that you can look at this. You can create different levels or different types of members. You can take on outside supporter members, sympathizing members, and they could be sponsoring a form of, crypto that helps develop part of, let's say, an AI archive system that somehow you figured out a way where there's a financial credit part to the archive. So you could take people on as outside investors and outside members. So you're working with different styles of increments of what you can do with those. And what kind of benefits would be there also is on the table wide open as to what those can be. So this affords more of an extension. Now you can also have different styles of members that would be entitled to different levels of participation. So in other words, you could say we can consider having different types of members. So vested members become at different levels. So you can attract new participants. You can say, well, we want to help out new writers. We want to help out new talent, new people, and we want them to join, and they can't afford to join. So you work out experimentals. A lot of organizations will have a tolerance or a sponsorship of experimentalism, where you have certain allowances, even a time period to say, okay, we'll let you can do 4 projects. I think film, it used to be 4 projects before, hey, you have to pay your dues, you got to become the member. So basically you can work with this even more. And when we're going to overdrive, as people accept more and more of these outside of the box options that really make the organization really solidify, really solid. Then you can say, what areas can we work with to do this? And we could do outside members and say, these are types of sympathizers or whatever, and say, here's what we'll do. We'll sponsor you into a hard asset generation program on a pilot deal where we're going to partner for you, but we want an extra percentage on the loan. Now you're talking about being a bank, like a standard bank in a way, but not. You're not a standard bank. Now you're talking about possibly being a venture capitalist, but still different because you have a different criteria that's custom to the environment that you're interested in. So there can be a custom attraction level in some way. So you could end up looking at this. How do we look at this from the financial points, on the hard points? So on this overdrive feature, you can say, well, there's a nice profit to be cut up in doing this, in sponsoring these. And, we do the loan guarantourism. If people have problems, what we do is we can say, how about we invent a thing where we step in and say, look, we're not really going to take the property from you like a bank would. What we're going to do is take control of it and set the project right and get it going to do what has to be done to keep the project going and to keep your interest protected. So it's a two-way street. We're going to protect both interests and say, okay, things aren't going good. You have no work. We can't get you anything. Ideally, it would be nice to always have a way to get somebody something. So, but if you're bringing in these outside people, they're not like full members where you would just say, we're just going to hook you up in another construction project, and you'll do part of the work and get pay, and there's money, so you can keep paying your monthly loan fees, whatever. So in this one, the loan guarantor project, and this could happen for various reasons. We'll leave those wide open. Maybe someone got sick, there was an accident, whatever. They got kidnapped by terrorists, whatever. Things can happen. And what it is, say, okay, we're going to complete the project, but this person is absent in some way or whatever. We don't know why. Maybe they were kidnapped or something. So what we're going to do is we're going to rent out the location to be able to make that loan payment. So we're going to manage the whole project until we can get back in touch with you and deal with whenever that issue, whatever it was, gets resolved or comes to a new understanding. Maybe you got injured in a car accident and you can no longer do the same things. There's all these aspects. So we can be very generous with understanding that it's perfectly easy enough to guarantee extra guarantourism to where there is going to be no loss. There's not going to be a loss on one end. So you also want to have decency and respect and help people. You want to help people that are your members, or in this case, we're talking about even sponsoring outside members. So sponsoring different style of projects can make a profit for the organization, which of course makes the organization even stronger. It can bring in different styles of new types of memberships and participation levels. So there's all these different options to go into overdrive to do all kinds of neat things. So eventually, if you start getting into raw numbers where somebody's going to partner with you, and every time you do an outside contract, that there's a $45,000 profit ratio that comes out of it, that's significant. Then you just sit there and go, wait a minute, that's 45,000 profit? Can we get a hold of 40,000 people to do this? Yeah, we want to sponsor. So this is solid. This is good. This is an opportunity to continue working with the ideals of the organization. So this also has other positive aspects. You could suggest and say politically, I don't know if that's the right term, but I think that the educational logic is definitely in the interest of the organizations when considering this, the goodwillness of doing certain aspects. And there's still the sheer profit. So now we have different ways of looking at this, and we go, okay, we decided to come up with some type of program, or people looked at it, they voted on it, the governance come through, and there was a decided, yes, let's do it, this decided this way, everybody voted on it. So that happens, okay? When you start getting stuff that happens at that area, now you're talking about we can still keep evolving, we can still keep doing more, which means more overdrive. So literally, you start making different types of overdrive deals. Like you want to get more members in certain areas, and you say, okay, we've got a deal, and we will give you a free membership if you agree to donate so many hours per year, because we need people to put in hours to help basically fill certain key seats in the organization to make it operate the way we want it to do some sort of feature, and the feature can be anything. We just want people there, and we want people that are members to do whatever it is. So you can hand out these type of new custom style memberships where it's no cost, but they're going to give a certain number of hours, so to speak, however that works out. And they voted upon, looked upon, re-explored other aspects, in, out, whatever. So now you step up yet again into more overdrive features. So how do you keep this going? So I mean, I've looked at a lot of the modeling on some of this years and years ago. I look at it from time to time. But there's a very heavy model structure that I've looked at that works really well, and it gets kind of crazy in a way. But it's financially solid, and it works, which means you can get to the point where you have a collective, for instance, you can be doing, and say, we've decided to do 10 campground projects in each state. So we're going to do 500 campground projects that have a special attractiveness to it. In other words, members have cabins. There can be different types of camping. You can have tent camping. You can have RV camping. You can have a design structure that people look at, and the governance system looks and approves and says, yes, we want to do this. You can have other features. You can have lectures. You can have remote access, extended access to the archive. You might be adding extended archival access. It's one of the things in my organization. I worked with a lot of different designs that I've never gotten to pull off yet that I thought were really nice. So people would go on vacation, and it was the right environment, different styles of places. I kind of like mountains myself, but I also liked a little bit of desert stuff, depending on what you wanted to do. But then you can do waterway stuff. There's different types of stuff you can consider doing, stuff on islands. There's just it's wide open. It's just wide open. So now you can sit there and say, okay, how do we do this? We have an invitational. Let's call it. It's a carrot. It's an invitational, but there's screening. We are an organization, and there's certain parameters that we kind of want to, still stay appealing to. So you might want certain people to somehow, some way identify or bring something to the table that is in line with what people in governance would say, I like that. That's a good idea, So you're going to attract, and it's a CAST system. Let's not go there right now. So you're going to have stuff. It can be students or whatever. You can do some certain amount of student sponsorship, by the way. So you can set out to do all these different styles of projects, and these become significant projects, by the way. And then you can do remote extensionalism to the project. In other words, we have the campground, but we're also sponsoring nearby or somewhat, let's call it somewhat nearby, projects for people. Now here's the deal. The deal is it's a hard asset development proposal, and it makes sense. There's going to be a for-profit into it. And the guarantourism has the fact that Well, any piece of real estate developed, if you're set up as the guarantor, if anything goes wrong, you get control of the project. And we've talked about that a little bit. So there's a lot more ways to bring other people into deals. And then all of a sudden, here's the deal. Someone comes in and says, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why. We just can't find anybody to join, anybody to do these different aspects. How do we resolve this? How do we resolve an extra overdrive that nobody wants to participate in? And a lot of people are sitting there going, well, that's kind of strange. Why wouldn't they? So, but seriously, then you have to sit there and say, okay, how much profit are we making? Okay, we're going to re-angle this and say, we'll pay members. We will pay you to become a member and involve yourself with this particular contract option. Why is this? Two reasons. One, we like certain types of people. And two, we want to increase our collective organization's power, because there is the profit aspect. So you could literally pay people to become members. So when working with this really incredibly evolved, insane aspect understanding, when you get to the point where you realize that you have an overall package that's so solid, that has so many features, that you have a hard asset development package that is very attractive. You're going to make, you're going to make $45,000. So if the membership is $1,000 and you can't get any more members to sign up, you can pay people to become a member practically and say, okay, free membership, and we will pay you so much money to participate in this project. So now you can restructure these deals in a different creative way. Now, I've set some average points of talking about this, that, and the other thing. There's different projects. You can have larger projects where it's like we want certain types of extra members to be involved in a collective camping or resort project, or nearby it. So now you have people that might want to get sponsored into different things where they say, well, I would love to be involved in $1.8 million nearby cabin project, but my time, I don't want to solely own it. I'd like to B&B part of it. So now they're going to say, so now you sit down and say, okay, how do we work this out? Because we're going to turn part of it into a B&B. And that's how we're going to recover some of our monthly income for justifying the loan expenses based upon for doing all the construction. So now it's like a form of a timeshare in a way. So now you have a new style of creative investment, yet attracting certain types of people because they bring something to the table. And part of this could be, well, yeah, we'll do this, but by the way, you have to put in 3 days or 4 days a year doing something. That means they have to show up for a party or whatever. They have to give a speech or something. However, whatever governance decides that would be aspects that they would like to add or have available, that would be what the exploratory and decision areas would be. So again, this works good for obviously guilds. Many types of unions have specialty things, but other types of organizations. So you have news press organizations, you have history based organizations. So you can end up having historical lectures. So there's no limit to what aspects might be attractive to strengthen this system. And for instance, these lectures or whatever, they become part of the archival holding as a permanent feature. And then, of course, the archive keeps becoming stronger and stronger in this way. So you can add all kinds of extra archival features, learning features, educational features. You can integrate the archival factor and say, we will allow our schooling features to be utilized by a schooling district for cost. You could charge a price. And the price might be low. It might turn out to be $1 a student or something. So, that could be a tremendous amount of money if you consider it and say that basically $1 a year per student, which means they have 3,400 students. That's $3,400. But then again, they say, yeah, we've got 178 schools. So you're talking about a significant amount of money, and this is a very low cost item. You know, this is helping with the cost of electricity, maintaining the archival equipment, and it's definitely a goodwill interface. It's also offering to bring quality, understanding, education, and ethics to the table as a participation in society. Now, whatever these numbers would have to be or changed or whatever, the governance would have to look at the practicality of these various options. But, you know, so, however, so that, I mean, there are these continuing options where we as organizations begin having more of a say, more of a hand in literally improving people's lives and improving the organization and actually improving society itself, which this affords all kinds of new opportunities, which obviously with some guilds, this would end up helping to promote additional entertainment products of which guild members get work from, or how those partnerships can work in the future. So this can be a lot of different ways to go to get to these other overdrive aspects, because you can literally get different sponsored items. I mean, you can get, you know, when I looked at a lot of the modeling, there were even options where you could say, oh yeah, we decide to build a casino, and some people would say, nah, I don't really want to build a casino. That's not necessarily ethical. Well, maybe you sit there and say, okay, well, we got a mandatory 75 cents on the dollar that comes in the door has to be paid back out, you know, whatever your policy is, you know. And you might have incremental limitations. In other words, that's per thousand. So you have a lot of smaller jackpot winners. So lots of people will come and have a good time. And well, how do we get people to show up here? We pay them. We just pay them to show up. They're getting free room, free cabin, free camp area, RV, whatever. And but you're attracting them to the main event area, which is the casino, and they're going to bring their money and spend it. So statistically, the average out on that is quite interesting. You also have food courts where you have affordable food, but you also make a profit on it as well. So not to say that a casino's the direction that people would want to go. There's a lot of different other options, because you could be doing different types of remote shows that can change. It can be comedy, it can be lectures, it can be anything. So you can have remote performance, remote areas of performing parties, or you know, and work with these different ideas when you're working with an entertaining or educational factor. If you have other different organizations that are into technology, these can be more extreme situations. Well, a lot of the ones that I was modeling and looking at was the inventor's workshop type stuff. So here we have different types of things that could apply to different types of industry. You know, people that want to talk about boat making, people want to talk about small aircraft manufacturer. So you can have a lot of different aspects of why people would join a club, an organization, whatever, and how you could formulate this into doing different other aspects. So there can be all these, there can also be the partnerships. So you could have guild members from multiple entertainment industries also working a partnership deal where you have some kind of a technology workshop organization that also sponsors certain types of events. They could be small aircraft, they could be fly-ins, they can be all these other different little neat aspects. And you have people that might, with their aspect, might be saying, okay, we want people to make videos, and what we'll do is we got certain people, we want people to put cameras in a certain place so that we can get a time-lapse set of images on how the building of this project progressed. And then we want some close-up action. We want to see how individual sections of this plane are put together, And because we want to see this, because there's people who voted maybe in governance and says, that's a good idea, I like that, they'll pay people. They'll pay people so to say, yes, we want to see such and such do the wing, or such and such do the landing gear, or so and so do certain onboard electronics. So you end up making this material that is educational, and people find it interesting, and that goes into their Pacific archive. But if there's a collective share somehow partnership between different organizations, there could be more of a sharing collective where people in governance look at it and say, well, this is kind of a bonus. Why don't we do some kind of a deal so we can all have access to this wonderful material that's been produced? So in a way it's like a private YouTube, but that doesn't mean that all things have to be private. Some of them can be promoted YouTube. That could be part of the advertising conduit. So into this, like the flying and the aircrafting, other people say, we want to do some remote projects where we're going to sponsor nearby construction projects for people who have aircraft near basically an airport. You could do specialized airport development projects for different people. And that can happen at different levels. You can have people that, I have big plane. I have very big plane. So you could have people that have huge planes and they want to do a different style of deal with a different series and sizes of homes. And then you have other people that want to do something else on a different size scale. So all of this is really wide open as to working with the collective. But the key pivot point in all of these areas is considering hard asset generation, longevous asset generation, and types of media material that live on, that still keep having some form of interest. And these can be educational or entertaining. So it's still a product. It's solid, building solid products that have a future. So into that we call these longevous and solidity aspects. So that having been said, that gives you a better idea of how we can address overdrive features, because we can do a lot of stuff with the overdrive features once we get past certain early areas. And again, I'll mention that there are other organizations they're past certain areas. They're already doing certain faceted things. So with that having been said, my name is Michael Crosby, and I hope you enjoyed this layout.